President Biden is on the road today in North Carolina trying to sell his bipartisan infrastructure law amid sinking poll numbers. The president is also trying to tackle surging inflation, jumping to a 40-year high. Meantime, the Labor Department reported that 185,000 Americans applied for unemployment last week, up a little bit from a week earlier. Let's bring in White House correspondent Mary Alice Parks and ABC News contributor and business expert Alexis Christoforous. Thank you for joining me. Mary Alice, a tough road ahead for the White House and Democrats months before the midterms. How is the president trying to balance selling his successes to the American people while recognizing the impact of inflation here?
Well, Kenneth, he's trying to do just that. This week definitely feels a little bit like a turn to the midterms with the president, both in Iowa and then in North Carolina today, like you said, two very political, swingy states. The president knows that he has this tough road ahead. Like you said, he wants to champion what they've gotten done, but they understand that they are being hit hard from both sides when it comes to his handling of the economy. Our ABC News poll from March found that 70% of Americans disapproved of his handling of inflation. Nearly 60% disapproved of his handling of economic recovery. We are seeing the president, like I said, really hit from both sides. Republicans blaming him for overspending, saying that that led to an increase in inflation. I'll let our economic experts sort of weigh in about whether the president is really to blame or how much he is to blame. But of course, from the left, you have Democrats disappointed too. A lot of Democrats frustrated that he wasn't able to pass some of his major legislative priorities, things like more health care, more money for child care, paid maternity leave, things they think would actually help with economic recovery. So right now, the president really trying to just get back out there, shake hands, talk to people, and try to talk about some of the positive things while his legislative agenda remains stalled.
And Alexis, how is rising inflation impacting Americans right now? Spending more, less? We're talking about food, gas. I mean, people go to the grocery store. Are they still seeing those extremely high prices there?
Kenneth, you can't escape it. We are paying more for just about everything. We have been for months. But today we got some new data out that shows consumers are still pretty healthy. We had retail sales for the month of March up 0.5%, which shows that consumers continue to spend even though they are faced with the highest prices in some 40 years. But if you dig a little deeper into that report, you find that we were actually spending more on gasoline. Remember, gas prices are up some 50% from this time last year. If you strip out those higher gas prices, the spending was up just 0.2%. And here's, I think, a real indicator of how people are feeling the pinch now of higher prices. Online sales, which we know have been a big boon for the economy, were actually down for the second straight month. So these higher prices starting now to creep into our household budgets. And most of what we're spending on, unfortunately, is gas and food, Kenneth.
Yeah, Alexis, people hear all of those numbers, and it feels like at the end of the day, they just want to know how long before things get better.
I think that's the question we're all asking, including President Biden, who's looking at a very tough midterm election in the months ahead. A lot of economists think that we may have peaked when it comes to inflation. Wouldn't that be nice news this past month? But a peak just means that. We might not go any higher, but it doesn't mean that we're necessarily going to go much lower. A lot of things need to change to have that happen, including we need to open up our supply chains a little bit more. We now have rising COVID cases in China, and they're starting to lock down again, which means more issues for these supply chains. And we still have to see how long the war in Ukraine drags on and what that's going to do to gas prices, because a big reason why that inflation number was so high last month, big reason why, was because of those higher energy costs.
So you're saying it's complicated. That's what I gather from that.
In short, yes.
Yeah. Alexis, let's move to these job numbers. I mean, what do they say about the current state of the economy?
Well, we had jobless claims, right? That's the number of Americans applying for first-time unemployment benefits. They rose just a little bit, but historically, they're still at the lowest level we've seen in about half a century. So what this tells us is we have a very tight labor market. There are labor shortages out there, and workers are asking for better pay from their employees. The bad news, though, is that even though wages are rising, they're not keeping up with inflation. Our wages rose 5.6% year over year, but inflation outstripped that because it's up 8.5%. So our purchasing power is not as strong as it used to be, Kenneth.
And Mary Alice, let's pivot here. The White House is weighing in this afternoon on some of the controversial actions taken by Texas Governor Greg Abbott at the border. What are they saying?
Yeah, well, to that point about supply chains, they're saying that this is detrimental, and they're calling on the governor to stop. They're saying these are unnecessary, redundant checks that the Texas Border Patrol and sort of law enforcement is putting in place after a truck goes through regular federal Customs and Border Protection checks. They're saying these are secondary and, like I said, redundant, and they're blaming them for causing these unbelievable lines. We've been hearing these stories out of Texas, some border crossings saying that they are down about 50 or 60% of the number of trucks that would normally cross through in any given day. Some horror stories of truckers stuck for over 10 hours. And of course, we're ahead of this holiday weekend. Everyone's looking for produce, a lot of produce coming across that border.
All right, Mary Alice, thank you so much. Alexis, we ran out of time, but I wanted to ask you about Twitter and Elon Musk. 5 seconds, good, bad, crazy?
A little bit crazy. He already is CEO of Tesla and is founder of SpaceX, and already there are signs that the board there at Twitter is not happy with this. They're going to do all they can to prevent Elon Musk from buying that company.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.